Good morning. Is anybody out there? Good morning. There we are. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. That's either late or very, very, very early. Trying to get a start on next year. Beginning of the year, first Sabbath of the year, we always do Vision Weekend here, Jesse and Tim, to think about the realities of what Anthem is, what it's here for, what we're seeking to accomplish. If you're new here at Anthem, my name is Randy, privileged to be one of the pastors here at LUC and at Anthem. Delighted to have you here today. And these are two of my colleagues. So maybe introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jesse. I'm one of the Anthem pastors and mainly focusing on the ministry aspects of stuff. And been here for I think 4 years now.
Mercy.
So yeah, you're a little bit short of yours, but yeah.
And I'm Tim. I am the worship pastor for the Modern Experience. So Saturday morning when we gather together in this space, that is the area that I focus on.
Yeah.
Been here for a year, almost.
I am curious. So this last year in 2025, we had a really incredible year. What were some of the favorite memories for you guys from this year?
I will say, I don't know if you remember the first time that we started focusing on life together. That was a fun memory for me because there was a little bit of angst with familiarity starting to shift a little bit. And that's something I really enjoyed and puts a smile on my face with, because that's something I know that this place has represented since its inception, is doing different things, not for the sake of being different, but trying to connect to the world around us, and not just those of us who know what it's like to warm seats on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite memories was, first of all, we run small groups 3 times a year, and it was so much fun to have our own small group, but also to hear stories from our small group leaders about the community that was formed in those places. I've said this before, but I've actually visited another small group, and I was there, and I was like, these people laugh more than I think I've ever heard in my entire life. That's Franz and Jeanette's group, and they come to second service. But yeah, I mean, that was so much fun to hear. In addition, I think another favorite part of mine was actually this last fall with your series, Love Your Neighbor Unless They Voted Wrong. That was a great series, because what I noticed, and I don't know if those of you who were here to be part of that felt this too, but it was right in the aftermath of a really tragic moment in our country's history, in addition to a lot of stuff that had been building up over the years. And your series, I think, took us as a church family from that feeling like fraught and divided and at each other's throats to that there's a higher calling beyond this to actually love one another. And what does that actually mean to not be polarized into black and white, to see beyond that? And so that was actually, I saw the shift in our church's culture as a result of that. So yeah. Well,
you know, my saying has become, only because it's the truth, God is faithful and I'm grateful. That's the two roles that God and I play. God is faithful and I'm just grateful to be a part of any facet of this ministry. I honestly think that one of my favorite moments, this is not so much a moment as a gathering of many moments, is just interacting with you before and after worship services, or if we see each other at other times at ministry events, those kinds of things. You have given me life, and I am profoundly appreciative of that.
Yeah. I mean, that is my favorite part of pastoring. I don't know about you, but just being able to hang out and hear people's stories and do life together, it's a lot of fun. Let's recap the year a little bit, yeah? Mm-hmm. You'll see here is our year in review. We started off this is actually in the fall. We had over 125 people in small groups, and that was a lot of fun to do that together. You can see some of the photos from our groups here. Is
that David up in the right?
That's David, yeah. He looks pretty normal there. That's what he's usually doing. But yeah, it was super fun. We had, I think, I'm blanking on the number of leaders. I think we had 15 groups, something like that. 125 people in small groups. It was a lot of fun to do together. I see some of our leaders out there, Daniel, Erica right over there. It was really cool to do together. We, as you said, launched Do Life Together in October, where we're talking as a church family about going beyond just like the being at church on a Saturday morning into actually doing life together, which is the invitation of Jesus and the writers in the New Testament and beyond. And so this was a major way that we did that. I want to say a huge thank you to all of our small group leaders who opened up their homes, who helped create the space for that.
Absolutely.
Give them a hand.
And I just want to say, Jesse, I know you give credit to someone else, but I've only heard you say it, so I'm going to say it's your saying. Jesse says you don't have to know everyone, but you got to know someone. And I don't know a better way than small groups to get to know someone in the Anthem space.
Yeah,
Great
Rick
experience.
Warren said that, so I'll let him have that.
Have I heard
credit.
that name before?
Yeah,
I think Rick
like
Warren
that.
probably got it from Jesse.
No, he's a bit older than me. But yeah, so we had 125 people in small groups. We have over 175 volunteers here. Yeah, so you give everybody a hand.
That's amazing. A lot of work with you, brother. That's wonderful.
We have, you see a lot of them out there in the greeting section. You see behind the coffee bar and the cafe. Back there, our production team, who never wants to be seen, but they're back there. And our music team. Beyond that, we have our small group leaders. We have people who participate in outreach. And actually, if you were to take the people that participate in an outreach, because we don't have them in our database necessarily, we're probably more like 225 people, if not higher than that. So thank you so much to anybody who gives your time and your heart to this place. You are what makes this place possible. This is not just
so
thank
true.
you, Kane.
So true.
We'll talk about this in a second, but this isn't just something that professional paid people do for church. This is something that all of us as the body of Christ are involved in. So thank you so much for being part of that. We had 106 unique givers. That actually might have gone up after the last thing, but 106 unique givers. One of the things that I've always been hesitant to talk about is finances in church. I'm not like gung-ho to be like, hey, we should talk about money. But I've been convinced that it is a fundamental piece of our faithfulness as followers of Jesus, is trusting God with our finances. But second, it's also how we all contribute to making a place like this possible, a community like this possible. And I just want to say, I found this out yesterday. I asked our business office what our giving numbers were for December. And I'm just going to share this with you guys as a really exciting thing for me personally, and I hope it's exciting for you as well. We had giving come in for $94,000 just for the month of December.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much for everyone who contributed. That is almost 70,000. That's 55. No, I can't say. The numbers are something between 5 and 7, and something between 6 and 8. It's between those thousands of dollars. I can't, or Kane's gonna go this.
That sounds like my math.
I was going to say, that's so 2025.
Yeah, exactly.
We're done with that.
We're in 2026 now. I can say it. It's several $1,000s or tens of thousands of dollars over what our normal monthly giving is. So thank you so much for being part of that and making this place what this is. Huge. In May, we served 60 single moms at our single moms brunch. You can give that a hand as well. This was an incredible moment where we as a church came together. 60 single moms came out. We washed and detailed the cars. And when I say we, I mean like a lot of you here in this room with all of us today, washed and detailed cars. There was a brunch that was put on for the moms. There was childcare available for the moms to have their kids watched in the room next door. And some of the stories that came out of that, our creative and communications director, David Sehan, recorded some of their reactions and their stories that they shared. And it went straight from like, oh, we're really grateful for this event to here's my story. And if you heard the stories of these moms and what they've gone through, what they're currently going through, it is incredible. And so, and what many of them said is, we don't get celebrated very much. And this felt so good to be celebrated, to be seen, gave me the energy to keep going. So this was huge. And so that was a big moment.
I would just add to it, Jesse, as I walked around the different stations of what people were doing and just watched our Anthem community, the volunteers, how the moms were receiving that. It was a deeply moving experience. It touched my heart at deep places. What was happening there. Beautiful moment.
Yeah, and it all happens because of people who are willing to put their heart and their time into it. So another thing that happened was just here in, October? Or was it November? Yeah, October. We served over 100 people. It was over 65 plus at the fall festival that happened just out here. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Some of the stories that came out of that, Kane was sharing, was a few people who said, I leave my house to go to the grocery store and to go to church. And this is the first time I really left my house to just have fun and to have something that was for me. And so it was a moment to just go beyond what we would traditionally think of serving and into our community that's not just from this church, but many people who are not from this church community. And so that was a lot of fun. So you can give everybody a hand who volunteered for that. If you were out there running the carnival games or helping to run the food or any of that, that was huge. Thank you so much for being part of that. And then we served over 500 families at produce distributions throughout the year. So this is where we're handing out fresh produce. This is through a partnership with a place called Sims, or it's not Sims, CAPS, that is affiliated with the university and the hospital. Cars come through, you hand them a box of fresh produce, and it's for people who are low income or who are handing them out to low income people in their general vicinity. And so really cool thing. We had about 20 to 30 volunteers every time, and it's a lot of fun to do together. And so we served over 500 families as a church community this last year. This is a celebration of this guy right here, Pastor Randy. This last year, and was it September, was marked 25 years. 25 years of service here at Loma Linda University Church. You can give him a hand for that. Randy is a humble guy. The guy you see on stage is the same guy that he is off stage. So he hates this, but we are incredibly grateful for you.
I didn't realize this.
We are incredibly grateful for you, Randy, and for all of the sermons and the messages and the heart that you bring to this church community. Thank you so much.
Kindly.
Yeah. The last bit here is we had 10 baptisms last year,
beautiful,
which was a huge gift to this to be able to be part of this journey. And I can see Savannah and PB and Angie, who we baptized early this last year, and then Daisy, if Daisy's here. There's Daisy, she's right there, who's baptized a couple weeks ago. You can give them a hand as well. We celebrate when people give their lives to Jesus, and that was 2025 in review. But what's so cool is today we are starting off with 2 baptisms happening at the end of this service. And so, and we'll get to those in a little bit. So, but as we go into this year, Tim, would you share with us a little bit about the philosophy and the heart behind what we do communally on a Saturday morning together?
Yeah, so you're probably curious about what those words are up there. So the ethos of this space on a Saturday morning is we want to be present with God, with each other, and have an awareness and have a presence with our culture. Be in the world, not of the world. Came to seek and save the lost. So those 3 things really are a focus when it comes to the music, the expression, even the verbiage, trying to be mindful of, as an Adventist church, our language. When you're a part of a culture, it's really easy to start just defaulting to the common language you share with others within that space. So being aware that we are expecting, we know, we shake hands, we meet so many different people, so many of you who are giving church a shot for a second time, a first time, a fifth time. And we want to be aware of that. We want to know you are welcome, you are loved. So we want to be present with our community in that capacity. Being present with Christ, I think it speaks for itself. Yeah?
Yes.
Great. Present with Christ and with our culture. When it comes to our expression of worship, it's different than what you'll experience in the sanctuary or the church I grew up in or other spaces. And the reason behind that is because we want to be aware of what's going on around our world so that we can connect to it, speak the language rather of our language, speak the language of the world around us. So be present with those 3 things, and that's
beautiful.
That's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
The big reality for us as let me say it this way: all of us in this room today, whether you call this place home, or whether you're here visiting because it's the holidays. By the way, welcome and Happy New Year. But all of us in this room represent the body of Christ. The 3 of us up here too. We happen to have the privilege of being full-time paid staff But the only difference in role that creates for us as pastors is that we get to dedicate all of our life, our time to this, whereas as the body of Christ, we're spread out in a bunch of different ways. Some of you are full-time parents, full-time students, full-time employees or workers, or you're running your own business. You don't have all the full time to dedicate to church. And so we get to do that. And our role is to create a framework for the congregation at large, so that you can be part of church in a way that is a lot easier. It isn't full of roadblocks along the way that you're trying to overcome while also doing everything else you do in life. So that's our job, is to create the framework for church. But to that end, we focus in on presence when we're here on Saturday mornings, but also into two other things that we want to really highlight. And I don't know if you've known this about this church community, but we also want to be a holistic church, not just to be a Saturday morning experience, but to be a full holistic experience here at Loma University Church. And so the second thing that we've been focusing into is doing life together, is going beyond this here and saying, as Randy said, you don't have to know everybody, but you got to know somebody in a church this size. You got to have the ability to do life with somebody else. And so a main way that we do that is through our small groups. And so they're going to start on January 24. We're going to open up our signups next week. And so if you're interested in joining a small group, come back next week, and we're going to have all of those on display and ready to go. But we're going to launch them on January 24 to go for 7 weeks alongside the sermon series that Pastor Randy's going to be preaching. So that's one way. Then, happening completely new, this winter campaign that we're doing, starting January 24, is potlucks. Can I get some claps for some potlucks? Sometimes to be present to the modern culture, you got to go backwards and you got to start doing some potlucks. But yeah, we're gonna do potlucks twice. January 24, February 21. We'll talk a little bit more about that and be talking with you as a church family about how we can all be part of that together. But 2 potlucks, and then we're doing a Super Bowl party together on February 8th. So when the Patriots are playing the Seahawks, those are my 2 favorite teams, in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the Cowboys
sometimes
are not
God
happening.
does not explain himself. It's a very sad thing.
When those 2 teams are playing in the Super Bowl, we're going to have right here in this room, we're going to get together, have food together, and watch the game, and have some fun games alongside of that. So that's doing life together. Those are some of the main ways that we're going to be doing that. And then second, doing life for others. We want to be a church that doesn't just exist for ourselves. I don't want to be part of a church personally that is just like a club in here. Most of us, I think, would agree with that. And so if that's the case, well, what is the posture that God invites us to have? It's to do life for others. And so we're going to do regular outreach opportunities that we're going to be announcing as those come up across the January, February, March. And then it's all going to close out this winter campaign that we're doing on March 8 with a health clinic that we're going to be running we're going to think it's dental, and there's potentially going to be some PT stuff available. And so there's going to be a big effort to get all of us together to be putting that on. So those are some of the things that we have coming up over just the next few months. We'll also be launching another spring campaign in the spring, and then we'll have more coming in the fall. So
I want to highlight something about this, what's on the screen. That might look overwhelming to some who barely have sleep enough to wake up to get to church. At the same time, I will say, speaking for myself, as a paid employee of the church, there is a form of obligation. And I say that blatantly, that's kind of an obvious thing. But I will say every time that I've gone to something where I'm like, I have so many house projects I need to take care of, but I put that aside and I go to something like the Single Moms Brunch or different events and ways that we're serving the community, I have never regretted it one time.
Yeah.
And usually they're a little bit longer, a lot more smiles than I was anticipating coming from my face, just a lot of meaningful moments. And I will say that the worship experience on a Saturday morning, that feels like an outflow from those experiences. Life together, life for others. So if you have the capacity, if you feel like this is something that God is prodding on your heart to do, to be involved a little more engaged in some way, just try it.
Yeah.
Just try it.
And that's our invitation, is to do life together for the next 60 days. If you've never done it before, try life here for the next 60 days and see how it goes, see what God does through that. If this is your church home and this is your church family and you're like, okay, I'm raring to go, let's get back into it, then I want to invite you all to that. And we have, as we talked about previously, the next 2 weeks will be Messiah with Ty Gibson and David Asherick. We want to encourage you guys to come out to that as well. You can find more info on that, luc.org. But also, as we launch into the winter in January 24, we want to invite everybody here to be part of that as we go into it.
There's a certain rhythm to church in the New Testament, and it's very simple. It's pointed out by one of the angels at the empty tomb after Christ had risen and the women came to see. They didn't yet know he had risen, but they came, and the angel said two things. He said, come see, go tell. And that's really the rhythm of church. Come and go, come and go. So we come, we see, we are filled, we worship, we connect, we find meaning, we find relationships, we come, and then we go tell. So that's the rhythm of church. That's what you all have been describing. I'm delighted to be a part of it, and I'm very happy to begin that here today.
Thank you, Randy.
So we're going to begin with communion today. It's a wonderful way to begin the new year. And so we invite you to participate. You'll be able to do foot washing just down the hallway to my right, to your left. After the service, you'll be welcomed there. And here we're going to participate in the Lord's Supper. So you're going to be waited on to receive the emblems. I want to invite you to take the emblems and to hold them. We're all going to participate together once we all have them, once we consider a bit of the Word. But we hope that this will be a deep and a meaningful experience to you and for all of us. So come and see and go and tell, and part of that is receiving the Lord's Supper. Just receive your emblems. You can just hold them in your hands. We'll take a few more moments just to make sure everybody has received them. Very simple emblems, but full of meaning, especially for those of us who have had the privilege of coming to know Jesus and of walking with Him. This is a moment that we as a body participate in meaningful ways. In the book of Acts, there's a bit of uncertainty because it says over and over again, they broke bread together. They broke bread in their homes. They broke bread at the temple. They broke bread on a daily basis. And there's differences between theological and biblical scholars as to what specifically that's referring to. Some say that most of the time, or even all of the time, it is referring to this very meal. And others say, well, maybe it is some of the time. Other times it's just the simple breaking of bread and eating together. And others say the truth is it all blended together in the early church. They saw this experience as that vital to their common life. So if you receive your emblems, just hold them for a few moments, and we're going to talk a bit about what it is that we're doing here. So it was a communion Sabbath, the church I was pastoring, a very small church years ago. Particular church had glass doorways back into the lobby. So from the front, you could see everything that was happening in the lobby, and glass doorways beyond that out into the parking lot. So being up front, you could see even into the parking lot. It was a Sabbath, a communion Sabbath, and the table was set up, and I happened to be up front at that part of the service. And I saw a group, 4, 5, 6 people, young adults coming in, and I thought, that's good. It's a small church. We welcome anybody, but we really feel the life when they come in. I saw them walk in through the lobby up to the door and start to open the door, and then they stopped. And I could see exactly what was happening. They saw this table set up here. They saw that it was communion Sabbath. And I saw them stop, kind of let go of the door and back up, and I saw this little huddle that happened here. I could almost tell you what they were saying. Hey, it's communion Sabbath. Now, really? Well, you want to stay? There's good hiking up the way here. And there's this conversation that unfolds. And if I'm not wrong, I think I'm right in this, there was somebody, at least one person in that group who was thinking, I don't like this because I don't ever feel like I'm worthy of this. And I watched them, and they turned, and they all exited. And that became an enduring image for me about communion. That sense of, I'm not sure I want to participate. I'm not sure I even deserve it. And then I ran across this in the words of Tony Campolo, famous sociologist, Baptist preacher, who writes, sitting with my parents at a communion service when I was very young, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, I became aware of a young woman in the pew in front of us who was sobbing and shaking. The minister had just finished reading the passage of Scripture written by Paul that says, whosoever shall eat the bread and drink the cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. As the communion plate passed with its small pieces of bread to the crying woman before me, she waved it away and then lowered her head in despair. I've had that experience in my own life. And I suspect somebody in that group that was at the church door seeing the communion table there thought the same thing. Man, I've had a week. I didn't even live up to my own standards, much less God's. What am I doing here at this table? Well, if you've ever felt like that, if you felt like those emblems that you hold in your hand are emblems that represent something of which you are not worthy, and I want you to consider something today from Luke's Gospel, the 22nd chapter. By the way, I'd love to get some emblems up here. I forgot to get them. So, hey, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. Hey, one left. Thank you. You're a good man. Luke 22. It's the time that describes from Luke's perspective what happens at this supper. Verse 7. By the way, before I read this, I just want to point out 3 things about this passage that I think underline just how deeply Jesus wants us to experience this supper. Verse 7, then came the day of unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John saying, go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover. Where do you want us to prepare for it? They asked. He replied, as you enter the city, a man carrying a water jar will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters and say to the owner of the house, the teacher asks, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? He will show you a large room upstairs, all furnished. Make preparations there. They left and found things just as Jesus had told them, so they prepared the Passover. 3 things I want you to notice in this overall passage, and this is the first one, planning. Jesus planned this. It gives evidence to how important it was to him. This particular time being described is an extremely dangerous time in Jerusalem. To begin with, the city was pregnant, gorged with pilgrims. It was always a time when Rome buttressed their forces there because anything could break out and they had to maintain control. But this week in particular is exceedingly dangerous for Jesus. In fact, by this time, the following day, Jesus will be dead. So he makes his plan, and he makes them somewhat surreptitiously. He doesn't want to call attention to himself or to his group. So when they ask, where do we prepare for the Passover? He says, go into the city, and when you enter the city, you'll see a man carrying a jar of water. Follow him. He'll show you to the place. Now, it doesn't seem to stand out in any way for us, except for this. In the world of Jesus, like it or not, in the world of Jesus, men did not carry jars of water. That was work that was relegated to the women in the household. I'm not defending it, just describing it. They were the ones who went to the well and carried back the water for the day, not men. In other words, Jesus is saying, I've made arrangements for a man to be carrying a jar of water. People will look at him like, what's that about? But then they'll go on, but you follow him. We wouldn't notice anything about that. But if I were to say to you, when you go to the mall, watch for an older man on a pogo stick. And when you see him, follow him. Well, that would stand out to you. Everybody else would be saying, what is up with that guy? And then they'd go on about their business. But we would follow him because that's who has been indicated for us to follow. So Jesus has made these background preparations. And he says, this is what you need to do. I am planning something deeply meaningful. It's planned. That's the first word. Second word is the word pined. P-I-N-E-D. Pined. It's an older English word, but it means to yearn for something, to crave something, to desire something deeply. Jesus pined for this meal together. Next verses, verse 14. When the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table, and he said to them, I have eagerly desired. Don't forget those two words. I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God. I have eagerly desired. That word desired is an interesting word in the Greek. Epithumeo. It's a strong word evoking a sense of deep desire that is typically negative. Because in many places, the way that word is translated is lust. In other words, I have eagerly lusted. But we say, whoa, this is Jesus and this is a holy moment. Well, there are other times when it is used in a very positive sense. But each time it is used to speak of a deep pining, a yearning, a craving for something. And in this context, it is joined to the other word, I have eagerly desired. So there is something about this experience at the table that Jesus is yearning for. He's planned it. He's pined for it, maybe prayed about it. And then finally, there is a promise that is deeply attached to it. We've already read it one time. He states it twice. We're going to read the second time now in verse 17. After taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, take this and divide it among you. For I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. It's a promise. I won't do this again until we're together again. That's the kind of meaning this holds for me. So we've been away a couple of weeks with kiddos, their families. Had time to relax, watch a few things, read a lot of things. One of the things I was reading about last week was World War II and some of the POW experiences in World War II, especially in the Pacific Theater. And I noticed something curious. For the American POWs, and this may be true for any nationality, but I was reading about them. For the American POWs, there were two things that kept them alive in their concentration camp experiences. Two things that kept them focused. They thought about, they talked about, they dreamed about two things: family and food. They were starving. Starving for affection, yes, but also literally starving for food. They would sit around and they would describe their favorite meals. They would tell each other the story. Oh, I go in and there's the table, and they start describing until their mouths are just watering, and they are yearning. They are pining. They are craving that meal, and they are craving the experience with family around that table. That's the kind of experience Jesus is describing here. And he says to them, I will not do this again. This moment that I have so deeply yearned for, I won't do it again until we're together again. So why is this such an important experience for Jesus? To begin, it's set in the Passover experience. That's deeply meaningful to them, but it's more than just that. If you peruse the pages of the 4 Gospels that describe this experience, one of the things that you will notice is that the people around the table don't deserve to be there. You have somebody who is shortly to betray him, another who is shortly to deny him, 10 others who are going to run for their lives and leave him alone. It's a motley crew, a ragtag band of people who have no right to sit at that table. And yet Jesus is describing and creating an experience where everyone belongs. In fact, if you read through Luke's gospel, you will see that time after time, he is at the table with people who don't deserve to be there. This is the culminating experience. I have yearned, it's as though he's saying, I have yearned to create a visual symbol that everybody is welcome. So I want to go back to that story I read a few moments ago from Tony Campolo, and in fact, read the rest of it. I just read the first part. I'll go back and pick up a sentence before that we read already. As the communion plate with its small pieces of bread was passed to the crying woman before me, she waved it away and then lowered her head in despair. It was then that my Sicilian father leaned over her shoulder and in his broken English said sternly, "Take it, girl. It was meant for you. Do you hear me?" She raised her head and nodded. And then she took the bread and ate it. I knew at that moment some kind of heavy burden was lifted from her heart and mind. Since then, I have always known that a church that could offer communion to hurting people was a special gift from God. That evokes a memory in me. I was in 5th grade. We had come back from Latin America and would return soon thereafter. We had come back to Texas. I was in 5th grade and I started school that year in a new group. I was the odd person out. I was used to a different culture, a different language, a whole different setting. So when recess time came and they went out to play, the girls went and I don't know what they did, and the guys went over here and I couldn't understand what they did. They played this game that was called football. A lot of the countries I grew up in, that wasn't football. But they did something that I would later discover from the writer George Will contained 2 of the worst elements of American culture: committee meetings and violence. So they all got over here, they got in these groups, and then they would come out and then pandemonium would break loose, and then they'd go back into these groups and then more. And I stood on the sidelines because I was never chosen. But then came PE. It was the fall of the year, football season. And at PE time, everybody had to play. No option. So I got chosen. Last person on the team. I wished I had understood then when Jesus said the last shall be first, but I didn't know that then. All I knew was that it hurt. So I get chosen. I'm the last person on the team. And the jock of our class, Steve, he was the quarterback. And he said, "Robert, you stand right here." I would later understand that was supposed to be called a halfback, and I was supposed to somehow block. But just stand here and you don't get in the way. And so we did this over and over, and I'm kind of standing here. And then in the huddle one time, he says to me, "All right, Roberts, this time I'm going to give you the ball. They're going to hike me the ball. I'm going to hand you the ball, and then run with me. Just follow me." Okay? And then we almost broke the huddle before he said this. He looked at me, he said, "And don't drop it." I really wish he hadn't said that. Because if he hadn't said that, that wouldn't have been what I was thinking about when he handed me the ball. We got up, hiked the ball, handed it to me. I dropped it. Play was over. And he stood there and berated me in front of everyone. It ought to tell you something of how that affected a 5th grade boy to say that all these years later, I remember it vividly. But I remember one other thing. I remember after school was out, trudging home. About a mile, I could walk it today. Trudging home, getting home, doing a few chores, maybe some homework. And then hearing Mom say, "Wash up, It's supper time. I can remember sitting down at that table, and it didn't matter. It no longer mattered that I had fumbled the ball and been berated, because here was family. Here I belonged. That's what Jesus wants you and wants me to know. I've planned it. I've pined for it, prayed for it. I've promised I won't do it again until we're together. And I just want you to know that you belong. Because of that, it gives me great joy to say, take these simple emblems in your hands, and we're going to pray over them. Gracious God, thank you for what these represent. Might we today, as we participate, know the deep sense of belonging that Jesus extends. Amen. So would you take the bread, and in accordance with his word, take, eat. This is my body. After the same manner also he took the cup and gave it to them and said, drink from it, all of you. As the taste lingers on your lips, just know Jesus wants you to rest in his gift of grace and know that you belong.